Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode 27 of the Phenomenon Known to Mankind. It's Saturday afternoon's main event. If you've been on this show and you've watched this show and you still don't know who I am, whether you are dumb, stupid, blind, or just plain irrelevant, I suggest you go back to school, go into your local library, get the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the phenomenal one, here on Same. Of course, I'm not alone because, of course, I have my co-host, the one and only limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So, please, put your hands together. Give me 2 claps and a peep snatch.
Woo!
There we
yes, go. A preamble to a great Saturday afternoon. It's a wrestling weekend. It's going to be a quick one today because we got Night of Champions to go. But of course, before we do all of that, we got to get you warmed up a little bit so that you can get ready for all of the laughs and the good times and all the wrestling news possible. Because that's what we bring here each and every Saturday afternoon. So there you go. Wrestling weekend. Let's do it.
Absolutely, Pete. Well, look, with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and not waste your time. Of course, Night of Champions later today. It is a fun-filled wrestling show with 6 matches on a card. We'll get into that later today. But first, of course, we have to go ahead and kick this show right off of the mark. So look, when you hear this sound, it means it's time for one thing and one thing only. Guys, it is time for
Wrestling Crash Course.
All right, peeps, how we feeling? Okay.
I hit it with a dab just beforehand, right?
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
I agree. Well, look, first and foremost, piece of news today. Smackdown suffers its first Netflix outage. If you're one of the few people or one of the many people who go ahead and watch Smackdown via Netflix by going ahead and getting yourself a VPN in the States, you would know that alongside every other person internationally who watches Smackdown via Netflix, that Netflix suffered an outage last night during the first 30 minutes of SmackDown. Why? Most people thought it was a camel that chewed up on the cords near the production truck. Yo, wrestling fans are different, man.
Yes.
But they thought that, but of course, the news came back that it was a power outage near the production trucks that caused SmackDown to go off the railings and not have anything produced live for those watching on Netflix. Of course, for those watching in the States via USA later that night, we got to see the new production version of the War of Words between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, who will be facing each other later today at Night of Champions in the King of the Ring tournament final. Now, peeps, beyond everything else, you saw that promo. It wasn't bad.
Yes.
But truth be told, that wasn't what the fans thought was the promo or the promo battle of the night.
Yes.
It was what took place later that night. Now, peeps, you can go ahead and get into that. How did you feel about the CM Punk and John Cena segment?
Without question, as we have been saying on this show many, many times, and you hear me talk about story, there are always the 3 parts of a story, which is the beginning, the body, and then the ending, the conclusion, those 3 acts. And within that story frame, this was cinema. It was nothing but cinema. First and foremost, you started off with what they did during the beginning, even beforehand, with the kickoff show that they did earlier in the, I guess you could say the evening, the afternoon, depending on when you saw it.
Yeah.
And CM Punk sort of addressed the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which was, why are you here in Saudi Arabia? And one of the fans actually asked about the tweet. We all remember the tweet that he sent to The Miz 6 years ago about Saudi Arabia and, why would I go there? And he told The Miz to eat a blood money covered
Saudi covered
phallic symbol. Put it like that. Yes. I'm being very, very diplomatic with the words here. But yeah, that was where that went. And he apologized to the fans. He said it was an angry tweet that I sent. I apologized to The Miz. As a matter of fact, shortly before Punk was fired by AEW to go to WWE, the first wrestler that he addressed was The Miz, and they squared things off, and everything is cool. And that was one of the things that kind of helped ease his way back into the company. So that took care of that. So we're all on a good page, good note, good feelings. And then those good feelings got urinated on after what we saw on SmackDown last night. First and foremost, who gets credit for this? Bobby Roode.
Indeed.
Bobby Roode produced this entire segment. So kudos to the glorious Bobby Roode.
Indeed.
Second of all, the references and the wordplay and the way everything went with that CM Punk, who, for those that might not have seen it, Punk cut off John Cena in the middle of him getting ready to talk the normal things that he does about denigrating CM Punk and denigrating the fans. You hear the Doctor of Thugonomics music starts playing Word Life. CM Punk comes down to the ring wearing a Chicago Cubs jersey with Punk on the back, wearing the 4-fingered rings on both sides, saying drug free. And he literally got in the ring and destroyed John Cena for the better part of 8 minutes.
Yup.
I thought it was, first and foremost, warning, don't drink anything while seeing these kinds of promos because you will choke, which is what I almost did watching. But yes, the promo battle, just to start off, a lot of the flavor of the promo was CM Punk referencing, calling John Cena a Timu Macklemore with Macaless rhythm, which I thought was funny. Then he basically went on after that and said, you call me a player hater. Cena's buried more talent than The Undertaker.
That was another good one.
Which was another really big one. And then he looked at the crowd and he said, yeah, Cena, he's the champ, but he's lost all his respect. I'd retire too if this company rehired my ex. Like,
that
wow.
was the one that got that. That's exactly when I texted you and I was like, "Peeps, are you watching SmackDown right now?"
Yes,
that was golden. That was a golden one.
That was a kick right in the throat. And then, of course, he came on and went a little further, like same shirt, same hat, persona straight tragic, looked like a fish belly white Hulk Hogan, but somehow more problematic. And he continued to run Cena down like it was something awful. I'm the best in the world to the fans. I'm your vessel. Millions chant my name, and they still chanted you can't wrestle. I mean, yeah.
And then just the icing on a cake, just to go ahead and sit there and look at Cena and be like, John, before I go, there's just one more wish. Tomorrow night, you're facing Drake. Because Behind, you are my Drake.
Yes.
You know what?
Yes.
Punk, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. As much as the Saudi crowd didn't hype it up as much, I feel like it would have been better with an American crowd.
Yes.
It would have been amazing. But
could you imagine if this was in Chicago when he did this? Could you imagine?
Peeps,
yes.
The Allstate Arena would just come unglued.
Yes.
They would lose it. I was so shocked how he delivered the Nikki Bella line. And Saudi wasn't as reactive. And I was like, did y'all not just catch what he said?
Yes. Yeah. There were strays being...
But y'all not going to pop for the Nikki Bella? I was like, oh, please.
Yes.
But still, all in all, that was a perfect segment. Well put together.
Yes.
It seems as if within this match, there are going to be sets where we get a little bit of old, a set of new, but still in the end, as we've seen with a lot of John's matches since he's won the title at WrestleMania 41, he's kind of taken a physical bump.
Yes.
Every single opponent has went ahead and beat John to a pulp or hit a finisher on him to end the last go-home show before the actual show.
Yes.
Now, within this sense, this didn't happen. But in the end, John still got bodied.
Yes.
So I think we know where we're going when it comes down to predictions tonight, right?
Yes.
Okay, indeed. Well, look,
Okay.
we'll save the predictions for later. We won't get into that. We'll
Yes.
move on to the next piece of news here on Wrestling Crash Course on Saturday afternoon's main event. And it is Kross can't take bumps. Peeps,
Really?
Peeps. For some reason, the IWC and other wrestling outlets are reporting that the reason as to why Karrion Kross wasn't getting a push beforehand or hasn't been shown on the main roster having matches is because Karrion Kross can't take back bumps. Kross went ahead and spoke to Saudi Arabia media here at Night of Champions literally yesterday and aired out the grievances about that. And he's like, look, I get it. People are just saying all these things for clicks. It's not true. This isn't going to be the case. We let them go ahead and say whatever they want to say, but I know the truth, and it's that I can't take bumps. Scarlett then went ahead and stated out her response as well to the media, saying, oh, we just let them say whatever they want to say. They need to make their money, so they're going to go ahead and make their money. Whatever they need to do for clickbait. But in the end, Kross can wrestle. Peeps.
Yes.
Of course, in all senses when it comes to wrestling, and to those watching right now, we, of course, know that in professional wrestling, when you make quotes like that, you have to put your money where your mouth is. So it all comes down to today against his match with Sami Zayn. Now,
Yes.
Peeps, in the case that there may be a botch that happens or he doesn't take a back bump, what are we going to be saying?
We're going to look at this whole thing and say that this is one of the dumbest things I've heard in a very long time. And if that was the case, some people would look at it and say, okay, well, if that's the real reason why he's not getting pushed and he wants to deny it, then why is it this is his first premium live event in 3 years on the WWE on the WWE's dime? So those will look at that and say, well, maybe there's credence. Maybe he can't take a back bump. You know who else couldn't really take back bumps? Ric Flair. And how long did he wrestle after his plane crash? And he said himself he couldn't take straight back bumps. That's why, if you notice, he would get back dropped or suplexed. He would shift to the side of his back, not flat backed.
Yeah.
But the plane crash happened in 1975, and he only retired, let's say, 15 years ago.
Yeah. 08.
Yeah.
And he still ended up wrestling how many years ago? So.
Exactly. You know, like, he had a match just what it was 2 years ago, if you want to call it a match I still haven't seen and will not see. You know what? I'll digress.
I digress.
I'm digressing. I'm not going to get into that one. But yeah, it's if he can't take back bumps, then he wouldn't be wrestling. He would just be a manager, and that would be the case. So we'll see how his matches with Sami Zayn is when we give our predictions, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think it's rubbish. That's my personal opinion.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, from there, we'll move to another set of news here on Wrestling Crash Course. Roman Reigns is set to return. This week, there have been reports coming out that Roman Reigns is set to work SummerSlam. Not sure in what capacity, not sure what the profile match would be. Some say
maybe he'll host the show. I kid.
I digress.
There you go.
They're gonna put him in the crowd. They're gonna put him in the crowd as a celebrity attendant. Like, what?
He's gonna hop the rail and interfere.
Now that wouldn't be a bad idea. Now, peeps.
Yeah.
Can you imagine John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, and Seth comes in, makes it a triple threat match. And Roman Reigns just comes out of nowhere and spears the hell out of Seth Rollins just to go ahead and interfere.
Yeah,
that would make sense. It would make sense.
There you go.
I don't see Seth going 2 for 2. So, in that case, maybe so. But peeps, if he is due to return, do you see him in a match or do you see him making an interference?
If he comes back, I don't know. Well, if you're looking at it from ticket sales or whatever is the case, especially knowing SummerSlam is one of the 4 or now 5 major PLEs WWE does during the year, to not have Roman Reigns part of the show is kind of weird, given the year that he's had, and we really have not seen him since shortly after WrestleMania. if you're looking at it from that standpoint, it would have been about 6 months from going in and seeing where he is as far as using him. And it would be a coup to bring him in and have that as we can build around that. And then what feud do we put him in? How do we implement it? Does he go after Seth? Who does he go after from there? So I think that works definitely. And as I've said before a million times, as far as that storyline with Seth or whatever, I hearken back to that little conversation, the little whispering in the ear that Seth did to Cody Rhodes in his ear. I kind of think that they're sprinkling little crumbs around it for something. What that is, we'll find out.
Absolutely. Well, look, from there, we went and spoke about back bumps. We spoke about a possible return that probably wouldn't be a return if it doesn't happen. But we can't talk about one return, and we can't talk about how it's taking a bump. Real American Wrestling is kicking the bucket, peeps.
1, 2, 3. It's over.
It's over. That booking decision sounds like it's not going to work for me, brother.
No, brother.
But if you are keeping up with anything within the IWC when it comes to wrestle tickets, you would know that Real American Wrestling is hosting a show in Ohio. Of course, Real American Wrestling being the company started up by Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan and a counterpart. From what we're hearing, it's only sold 300 tickets. This was reported 3 days ago. Mind you, they're supposed to have about 5,000 in attendance.
I think it was supposed to be between 3,500 and 4,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. They only did 300 tickets sold. Wow. That's insane.
What are we doing here?
I really believe Hogan just finger point of doomed this particular promotion already. It's done. I don't think there's any interest. And based on the fact that who's attached to it, what their competition is, what's their market, where are they going to be doing this, and the time of the year that they will be trying to push this out, I don't think there's any interest at all in this product. And when it was announced, we talked about it in jest, talked about how it probably wasn't going to last long. When we thought that when they initially announced it we thought it was going to be a podcast. We knew, Bischoff and Hogan are going to announce something. And we thought, well, maybe it would be like the NWO podcast or something like, which would generate some interest.
Indeed.
I don't think anybody was thinking about Real American Wrestling, which the acronym is RAW, go figure. But it's not going to do anywhere near what they would like it to do.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, look, from there, we move back to WWE. We have a new champion, a new women's champion, a new U.S. women's champion. Julia has won the U.S. title within 50 days of her appearing on the main roster. Peeps, mega push indeed, right?
Without question. This is, as she said in her promo, this is the stepping stone. We know where this is going. They've already put the rocket right on her back. They've lit the fuse, and it's just going straight to the top from here. Let's see if they give her the vaulter treatment with the United States Championship, or they do what they did in NXT. Let's see where this goes. But going forward, she is a star. She was a star before. She's a star in NXT. She's a star on SmackDown. And it's only a matter of time before she starts main eventing shows because of how great she is. It's only a matter of time.
Absolutely, peeps. But now, real question. Can we pencil her in for a Royal Rumble win next year?
That's not a bad idea. I think that it works, especially since she's on the main roster for SmackDown. Stephanie Vaquer is probably next in line on Raw as far as how they go about this. I can see them both in that Royal Rumble going after each other and maintaining sort of a one brand versus one brand rivalry between the two and keep them away from each other as long as possible before they get back in the ring again. So I think that's where they may head to. But yeah, I can see that happening.
All right, then. All right. No problem. Okay, well, look, that marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course here on Saturday afternoon's main event. if you guys want to go ahead and keep up with all the latest social media news and updates when it pertains to the world of professional wrestling, all you guys got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us or follow us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons _main event. Follow us on Twitter /X at Saturday Main. And of course, follow us on TikTok at Saturday Afternoons ME. We also have good memes for you guys, perfect little reels that you guys can go ahead and entertain yourself to, and it would be perfect. We just don't go ahead and do any of the other stuff for the IWC that goes ahead and jacks off in their mother's basement after 5 o'clock p.m. But
tell them how you really feel.
Tell them how you really feel, right, peeps? Look, with that being said, that marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course. Peeps, we're going to go ahead and get into the part of the show that you are most certainly inclined to, and that is the ratings. Peeps,
yes.
Give us the ratings for this week.
Yes, well, the ratings kind of showcase what's been going on as far as NXT and AEW. This week, NXT wins the ratings 729,000 with a 0.16 in the demo, and AEW did 613,000 with a 0.15 in the demo. So after that 23% increase from last week, AEW fell back to 613. Really hard of a decline in considering, but knowing they're about 2 weeks away from All In, as long as it doesn't drop any lower than that. Because if we're talking 5 and change again, then we have to wonder what the audience is waiting for looking at the product right now. But Dynamite at 6 and change, let's see what they go next week. As I said, 2 weeks away from All In. They're trying to get this storylines for their show together and get that ready for July the 12th.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which is currently good news because I'm hearing that they have eclipsed the 19,000 ticket mark, which is an increase from what we have been speaking about and have been following through within the last couple of months. So that's a good thing. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, they can pull towards that 24,000 mark that they have been solely inclined to. And we'll see then. But of course, we know that Dynamite and Collision are, the factors that pertain to how people will go ahead and buy tickets and the interest within the storylines of the show.
Yes.
But what you said, 600K and change, that's not a bad number indeed.
All In is actually on pace to actually put up some records from what I've read.
From what I've been hearing, indeed. Yeah.
This is going to be, I believe, one of the biggest non-WWE pay-per-view gates. I believe they're closing in on a $2 million gate. So
about
that's
2.5, yeah.
Yes. So they are doing well as far as the gate goes. They're getting the attendance in, even though it's not the 50,000 or so that they were probably looking for. It's still a huge get in a baseball stadium to get well over 20,000. So they're going to get a nice, I believe the camera work and what they're looking for as far as presentation goes will look really good when they bring that show in just in another 2 weeks. I think that they're going to do pretty good as they continue to flush the card out to get the interest going.
Indeed. Well, look, with that being said, that marks the end of the first half of Same Here, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back from our 30-second break, we will go ahead and get into the questions from you guys, the fans of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event, and then, of course, our predictions for later today's Night of Champions hailing in Saudi Arabia. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere, guys, because the second half of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second half of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. Of course, it is a phenomenal one. Alongside me is my co-host, the Peeps Nate. We're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. Of course, guys, once more, you want to go ahead and follow through with all of us. All you got to do is just follow the social media handles that is up top from you guys, and of course, down below following through. But we are at the part of our show where we're going to go ahead and get into the questions that we are going to answer from you guys, the fans. Of course, if you guys want to go ahead and be a part of the action, All you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons _main event. Send in the question, and in the words of the wrestling god, WWE Hall of Famer JBL, I guarantee it will be on the next episode of the show. With that being said, the first one comes in from Master Shaw 007. He says, greetings, gentlemen. I feel like Goldberg's retirement angle has been completely botched. It totally feels forced and rushed. The build for this should have started at least last year when he earned a title shot. How would you guys have booked his retirement angle? Peeps?
That makes perfect sense. We know about what happened between Walter and Goldberg. Just, what was it, 6 months ago? 8 months ago? Sitting there talking about how, you know, his son is going to watch him lose. He felt disrespected. You go ahead and you have Goldberg say, I want Walter. I want Walter. Well, we can't do that because you're not an active WWE wrestler. They could have basically gone in one of the routes of saying, look, I've been here long enough. I have some sort of credit to all of the things that I've done in this company. What if I decide if I can't beat Walter, this will be my last match. You bring it to the biggest stage that you can, whether, like they said, it's going to be Saturday night's main event. You book it that way. And literally the same thing that they did with Jey Uso, where he was doubting himself. Not to say that he was scared, because Goldberg being scared of anyone would be weird. But imagine if they did an angle where Goldberg was kind of taken aback. This is a young guy. He reminds me a lot of me. Really invincible. This is a guy that is putting on match after match after match. 666 days as Intercontinental Champion. World Heavyweight Champion twice. I have to beat this guy. And if I can't, I will never step foot in the ring again. And you play that over the next couple of weeks. You show Goldberg training in the gym. You show Goldberg's son reminding him of how he was humiliated on that show. I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this for my son. My son may eventually aspire to be a wrestler. So I want to show him what it's like to get into the ring with an unstoppable force. You show that doubt. You show vignettes of him trying to get back in it, trying to get himself ready. And then next thing you know, you've got yourself a built-in show. On the weekend of All In and the Great American Bash and Evolution, and you build it right there. And that's how you build that match. They could have done a lot more with the angle as far as the build, and then show the importance of it. You hit the WWE shop, you get t-shirts, you get hats, you get posters, you show vignettes, you do specials on the WWE's YouTube of Goldberg's greatest matches, Walter's greatest matches. What are they going to do? That's what you do. That's how you build it.
Peeps Nates for WWE Creative, ladies and gentlemen. He may be a century old, but guess what? The man can still go. In the words of his favorite wrestler, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, he's a 60-minute man, baby. Woo! There we go. But with that being said, Master Sean 007, we hope that Peeps Nation answers the question to the best of your abilities. Now, look, with that being said, the next one comes from Long Island Isaiah. He says, Dom's ribs lasted as long as Uncle Triple C's heel turn. Hope he's enjoying vacation.
I found it funny that they talked about Dom. He sprained his mustache. That's why he was off the show. So
funny enough, they said so. They're saying that the rib injury is real, right? So
yes,
should be out for a certain amount of time. Well, hopefully Dom is. Because we do need Dirty Dom back on WWE television, so that way we can carry through the whole storyline of him actually bagging Roxanne Perez as well.
Wow.
Can you imagine? The man's married. He bagged Rhea Ripley. He bagged Liv Morgan, and now Roxanne Perez. What's next?
And he's the greatest injured Continental Champion of all time. Notice what I did there?
You forgot heavyweight, Peeps.
Yes. Yes.
He's gonna kill us.
Yes. But yes, it's weird. He was gonna have a really big match on the show, and because of the injury, we don't know how long he'll be out. They'll come up with some kayfabe way to kind of explain it. so that he doesn't lose the Intercontinental Championship. Because I have a feeling he's going to have a pretty long run with that. I'm not looking at Walter type reign, but I think that they're going to do something with that championship with him.
You know what would be nice? If somehow, some way they kind of tie this into storyline and he pulls his uncle and, you know, all this, or, you know, Pierce ends up finding out that he lied. and they just have him have an impromptu match with AJ Styles right then and there. That would be perfect. But
yes,
then again, we just have to wait and see what they have plans to do. From there, thank you, Long Island Isaiah, for that question or comment, we should say. But with that, we're going to go ahead and kind of, you know, point towards our live questions here. Corey Richmond says this. He says, thoughts on MJF showing up at MLW to continue his story with Mystico? Could we see MLW part of Forbidden Door? Basically, thoughts on cross-promotion in storytelling.
I don't have a problem with cross-promotional storytelling if the AEW audience, if they're not keen on MLW, if they don't know anything about the history of MLW, then it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. Now, obviously, we know as what MJF kind of cut his teeth in MLW as part of the dynasty. We know himself and Hammerstone.
Hammerstone, of course.
Yes, and knowing what the dynasty could do, knowing what they were able to do, and then doing that cross-promotional thing, those storytelling beats work if done the right way.
Yes.
That's basically the way I look at it. If you're going to do it in the sense that it's going to work, that's how you do it. But you have to remember, the AEW fan base they're not portrayed as mainstream as WWE's fan base. So although there are wrestling fans in the company that know about AEW and know about other promotions, that's not the entirety of their audience. So unless you bring a promotion and give them some sort of idea as to who MLW is or any reason why they should care, I don't know if that's what they're going to do.
I agree. Well, look, Corey, thank you for that question. Next one comes from Jadinator Productions. He says, what is one wrestler you would want to slam the door in the face on?
I have to think about that one.
You have to think about that one, Peeps? Are you serious?
Who would you be? Who would be the wrestler you'd slam the? See, you're saying slamming a door. I think a lot of people would probably slam a lot more in the face of that person.
Peeps. Is it okay if, like, you know, I can introduce Pillman 9mm Glock into
I wouldn't go that far, but I understand where you're coming from. Oh boy, that's craziness.
You know, I mean, who's the most hated wrestler in the world right now? I mean, if you have to sit there and think, who's the most hated? Even if we have generational heat on Dominic Mysterio, it doesn't mean I genuinely hate the man. Or the man is true. But genuinely, like, I wouldn't say seethingly hate Hulk Hogan, but I hate Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You know, that's
the
truth. I can't get behind the guy. Pause.
I'm pretty sure if Jim Cornette was answering this question, I think he would probably say either Vince Russo or it'd be Marco Stunt or it'd be Kenny Omega or somebody that he really can't stand. It would be like 3 door slams and probably some other words, choice words behind that too.
Thank you. F you. Bye.
There you go.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, Janitor Productions, thank you for that one, man. From there, we move to the last one here on Saturday afternoon's main event, and it comes from Hot Rod 316. He says, what's the bigger faction in your opinion? The Hurt Syndicate with MJF as the Nugget or Paul Heyman's Alliance 2.0?
That's a great question.
Wow.
That's a really good question.
Would it hurt if I said the Hurt Syndicate? I think Paul Heyman's Alliance 2.0, if they're going to call it the Oracle, or that's Heyman's new name, or, you know, whatever they might call it, you know, Revolution, or, you know, like, whatever you might want to call it. That alliance needs more time to build. I'm not fully on 100 with it. I think they have more to go. I think they have more things that they need to do to solidify themselves as one of those dominant factions within professional wrestling / sports entertainment. But within the Hurt Syndicate, you have a former world champion, you have individuals holding the tag team titles, and then you have a former world champion within MJF. That kind of makes it seem like, it's Owen Hart joining, the Nation of Domination, and then you have MVP spearheading it as the manager. It's set in stone. And of course, they've shown dominance within the tag team division. They've pretty much been on television every week, solidifying themselves. You have the crowd chanting "We Hurt People" during their theme song, which I chant as well. I feel that the bigger faction currently right now, in my opinion, is the Hurt Syndicate. Peeps, do you agree?
Yes. I think so, in the sense that they seem to me to be just as legit. Definitely the most legit faction in AEW right now, probably in the last couple of years. The last time that AEW had like a strict faction that everybody looked at and said, wow, would probably be the Inner Circle. At least the beginnings of the Inner Circle, not what they became, but part of that was the Inner Circle, the way they look. If I'm looking right now at the Heyman faction as this Dangerous Alliance 2.0, I'm sure that there's probably going to be at least one more addition to that. I'm of the mindset that it's not set in stone if they do. The fact that they have Paul Heyman as an orchestrator here makes the faction that much more legit than the Hurt Syndicate, even though the Hurt Syndicate is a legitimate faction. But I'll say it right now, and I said this before, I'm going to keep the storyline beat in my head until they address it somewhere. Is that conversation, whatever Seth Rollins said to Cody Rhodes a few weeks ago, I believe was it on SmackDown or was it on Raw? I think it was on Raw. SmackDown, yeah.
SmackDown.
And he whispered something in his ear and then left Cody in the ring. Now, they may not revisit that. That could be just something that's there. But if they do decide to pull the trigger, because Cody himself talked about my days of being a top face are numbered, signaling that he might become their number one heel one day. I think that's almost assured the way he's talking about it. So why not throw him behind this? Think about that. A heel Cody Rhodes being managed by Paul Heyman in a den of thieves group, so to speak, with all of those guys there.
The Dangerous Alliance is fine, guys. Let me stop. But I can see that. Another option of an individual who hasn't been on television in a while now. I was thinking along the lines that maybe Drew McIntyre would be a certain perfect addition to this alliance if it needed more backing. Cody, I know exactly what you're talking about, but then that's just Cody giving out Cody lies. We know how Cody is. Cody likes to allude to certain things to get the people talking, and it certainly works. The topic of him turning heel is a topic that all of us are willing to listen to because we want to see a heel Cody Rhodes being a top guy within the WWE. Now the question is, will they ever pull the trigger? I am along the lines that they won't pull the trigger until possibly a couple of years down the line. Maybe next year. But this year, I'm thinking, look, if he's going into King of the Ring tonight, if he's going into SummerSlam within the next month and a half, then probably the whole rest of the year, he's going to be a babyface. I can't see him
of course
being a part of the Dangerous Alliance at any given point in time currently. But Drew McIntyre, on the other hand, a guy that hates CM Punk, a guy that hates Roman Reigns, a guy that certainly defines what it means to be a badass in all sense of the word when it comes to professional wrestling. Peeps, I think that would be a perfect addition. You add Seth Rollins as the visionary, Bronson Reed as just the beef of the whole faction itself, Braun Breaker as the enforcer in a sense, but still on the other hand, a badass. Then Drew
Did you
McIntyre.
just say enforcer? Oh, never mind. Wrong faction.
Oh, peace. You know what? It's funny because I was genuinely thinking that this thing could always kind of seem down as like the Four Horsemen in a sense. It
Yes.
kind of gives the vibes, right, peeps?
Yes, it does.
But
It does.
all I'm saying, wouldn't Drew McIntyre kind of give you an alludance of a Lex Luger? Just in a sense.
Yes. He could. He could be looked at as the muscle of the group, even though we know Braun really is the muscle or the enforcer, one of the two, because it gives you that idea of, okay, at any one time, nobody is going to mess with Bronson Reed. He's just a big, heavy, so to speak. That's the guy that's going to put you in the hospital. You don't mess with this guy.
Wrong.
Braun is the young guy that's just going to take you out as best as he can. Seth is the leader. And now we have Heyman as the mind, the Oracle, as Seth Rollins has been calling him. So let's see what happens. I'm glad they call him the Oracle and not the Wise Man, in the sense that it distances himself away from the bloodline terminology of how Roman used him and how Solo used him. And it now puts them into their own road of what he thinks of him as. And pretty much an oracle is someone that sees the future and predicts great things. And lo and behold, he's doing spoiler alerts every week.
True. You got a point.
He's a human Ouija board.
Human Ouija board is insane considering the fact that some
Yes.
people may actually refer to him as Lucifer incarnate. But with that being said, the last one is still a live question. It comes from Corey once more. He says, thoughts on the booking of the Lucha Brothers so far? I could see a lot of gripes here and there with the booking of Rey Fenix and Penta. Peeps, how do you feel about it?
What I'm seeing is Penta, after the first couple of matches that he's had, they're starting to job him a little bit. It's not hurting him right now. I think it would hurt Rey Fenix more than it hurts Penta. Penta, they kept him strong, and he's losing in high-profile matches. But they're going to have to book them in a way that makes them look good going forward. So I think that that's where they're headed right now. I don't have too much of a problem with it right now. Just right now. Let's see where they go, say, by the end of July, and see where they go from there.
Do you see them? Do you see WWE at least looking at this and saying, well, you know what? We know their best work comes as a tag team. Why not go ahead and make them a tag team?
I don't think that happens yet. If they address the draft and they decide Penta's singles push is not where it should be based on how top heavy the card is, and they want to make him into that tag team roster that we've seen him at. I mean, Penta is a former world champion. He won the world title in TNA. We know what he's done in AAA and all of the other promotions that he's been in, seen him in Japan. So we know what he can do. The question is, as a tag team, would he be lost? Because let's really call it what it is. The tag team division in the WWE, it's better on SmackDown than it is on Raw because they're spending more time addressing it on SmackDown. Raw is a different story. If they want to do that, they could actually have the Lucha Brothers on Raw going after the Raw tag titles. And by the way, what the heck has happened to the Raw Tag Team Championships? It seems to me that when we talk about tag team championships, we know what the Street Profits are doing on SmackDown. Indeed. The New Day have basically become the tag team version of Carlito. They talk something, they fade away in the background, and then they disappear.
Yep.
What are they doing?
And that is why I brought up the thought process of the Lucha Brothers possibly becoming once more a tag team within the WWE.
And it would work definitely on Raw based on the fact that they need a steadier tag team division on Raw. I mean, I like what they're doing on SmackDown with the tag team division, but Raw needs a bigger division, tag team wise.
Indeed. I agree. Well, look, from there, that marks the end of the questions here on Saturday afternoon's main event. We enjoyed these questions.
Yes, great questions.
Keep it up, guys. And if you want to keep it up, of course, once more, one thing and one thing only. DM us on Instagram at Saturday afternoons_main event. Send it in. It'll be on the next episode of the show. With that being said, peeps, I think it is now time to go ahead and get into something real. I think it is now time to go ahead and get into our last part of today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time for our Night of Champions predictions for today's show, taking place in about an hour and 15 minutes, hailing in Saudi Arabia at the Kingdom Arena. Once more, 6 matches, a stacked card, and the finals for the King and Queen of the Ring tournament.
I'm even wearing a King shirt. Well, there you go. King of Diamonds.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, well, look at that, peeps. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into our predictions for today's show. With that being said, peeps, of course, there is a lot of things on the card that we can address.
Yes.
I think the first match that we have to address here is Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross.
Yes.
You can pencil me in for Karrion Kross getting his first major win, leading into this push that we hope to see. I think Sami, once more, he doesn't need this match. I don't think he needs it. Beyond everything else that has happened, we've heard all the talk about Sami Zayn potentially becoming world heavyweight champion or having a world title around his waist. I don't think this is the match that begins that push. I don't think this is a match that is needed for him to go ahead and begin this push. I think this is much more needed for Karrion to start going ahead and silencing the doubters and the naysayers. Pencil me in for Kross.
Yes, I think the same thing. I think that the arc of the story for Sami Zayn will probably be, if not at one of those 4 major cards. I don't think it's going to be at SummerSlam. I don't even think it's going to be at the Survivor Series. I would not be surprised if they do decide to put the world title on Sami Zayn. Do it at WrestleMania. He could be the Jey Uso story going into WrestleMania. But I think that they're going to build this out at least between now and the end of the year to see where it goes. And I think that's where they're headed. As far as Karrion Kross, I know Triple H really likes him, but he hasn't done a lot with him. And AOP and Paul Ellering were there with them. That fell apart. Yeah. So it's Kross and Scarlett, and they have to be able to do something with them. And I think it starts today.
Indeed. From there, the street fight. Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez. Peeps, I certainly think that this is one of those matches that I think would be one of those bathroom breaker throwaway matches. I think we both know who's going over within this sense. Peeps, you can go ahead and yell it out.
Raquel Rodriguez. You know what I think is? I have a feeling that Roxanne Perez is going to do something in this match that's going to cost Raquel the match, and Rhea is going to end up winning this one. Rhea is so over, it's not funny. And I think that based on how this is, even though it would be interesting to have Raquel come out of this with the win, I think this is going to further justify the bumbling of Roxanne Perez trying to help out the rest of the Judgment Day, and is going to backfire again. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think Rhea's going to end up winning this one.
Got it. Okay, no problem. Pencil me in for Rhea as well, although you did bring up a good comment here within the sense of possibly Roxanne jumping into this match. We also got to pencil in the fact that Raquel Rodriguez is holding both women's titles. And Liv Morgan is out. I would somewhat think that maybe somewhere in an alternate universe, or maybe in this universe it happens, that Roxanne actually cost Rhea Ripley the match. But still within the sense that I think that Rhea is seeking retribution. I do indeed think that Rhea Ripley is going to go ahead and win this match.
Yeah.
With that being said, we're going to jump to the singles match for the WWE United States Championship. Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa. This is a match that we believe can go either way. Both men are certainly candidates to have the U.S. title around their waist. But seemingly within this sense, peeps, I see Jacob Fatu retaining.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess
I don't think you're going to get too much fight from me on this one. I don't. First of all, they have booked Solo horribly over the last since WrestleMania.
Yep.
They booked him like he was a complete afterthought. And he has Jeff Cobb, JC Mateo, as his hired guy. We know that Hikuleu had a couple of dark matches for WWE within the last week. If they want to bring him in to kind of showcase, well, guess what? We got somebody else that's going to back him, and we'll see what happens from there. If they want to go that route, they could. I just don't see Fatu losing. Not this quickly.
Indeed. I agree as well. So I guess we're currently 3 for 3 right now, peeps.
Currently 3 for 3.
Okay. Now, look, we're going to go ahead and move to this match, the Queen of the Ring tournament final. Of course, the winner is crowned Queen of the Ring and receives a match for their respective brands' world championship at SummerSlam. Peeps, we both know where this is going. Pencil me in for Jade Cargill.
Yes.
Is this even hard to think of? Peeps, I think we already know what's going to happen, right?
Oh, of course. I'm pretty sure we know that this is where they're going. Yes.
Yeah, so peeps, early prediction. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this now. Jade Cargill versus Tiffany Stratton. Jade ends up winning the match. Naomi ends up cashing in on Jade. Give it to me. Prolong the storyline.
There you go.
I love it. I see it like that. That would be perfect for me.
Yes.
But once more, we both agree on Jade Cargill. There is no fight on this one. There is no if, ands, or buts, or maybes.
Yes.
This is solidified.
Yes.
But within the King of the Ring tournament final, winners crowned King of the Ring and receives a match for their respective brands' world title at SummerSlam as well. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton. Of course, a story told back many years ago from the moment that Randy Orton slapped Dusty Rhodes in the face, to Cody then joining Legacy, to all of that happening to their triple threat downfall at WrestleMania 26, all the way to Randy teaming up with Cody at War Games, leading to this very moment now. The history is written by itself. But now there's only one person who can win this match to go on to face John Cena, presumably at SummerSlam.
Yes.
Give me Cody Rhodes.
Okay. So you've got Cody. I've got Cody also. Because whoever wins, it's a rematch against Cena.
Yup.
The last time again. But Cody has to get that rematch with Cena before this whole run is over with. And to do it, it makes sense to do it at SummerSlam. So yeah, I can see that happening. Now, the question is, are the fans going to go with Cody in this one? Do the fans want to see them again so soon after WrestleMania? Because Cody took a month off after WrestleMania, and then when he came back, the fans they cheered for him. He got an infusion of crowd support, but we kind of know how that went afterwards.
Indeed.
See what they do from here.
Now, peeps, the real question is, I kind of just set out an early prediction for the Asuka Jade Cargill, fallout from that. Does Cody win at SummerSlam? That's the real question.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I think Cena is going to have a longer run than most people think with this championship. Okay. I can see him holding on to this belt probably all the way to about the Survivor Series. Because remember, his final match is Saturday night's main event in Boston in December, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So I can see him losing this championship down the road, going in, having, as you've heard me say, the mea culpa moment where he does the redemption arc. The fans, I kept seeing the kids, and I was just trying to prove a point, whatever is the case, and see where they go from there.
Now, if Cody wins and Cena wins, and we get this match at SummerSlam, do we think that maybe an interference from The Rock once more, as a presumable thought, can happen?
It could. That would make sense, but I don't know if they're going to go that route. And that's kind of the issue. The question is, are they creative enough to make this make sense without The Rock being directly involved? And they've been doing a decent enough job of doing that once Punk was introduced as that next challenger after the Randy Orton feud ended with Cena. This is what they have to do now, is be more creative as to how they're going to do that and book around the fact of the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Why isn't The Rock part of this? Why isn't the final boss involved in this at all when he personally set this in motion before WrestleMania?
All right. So we'll go ahead and continue to follow that story down the line to see what happens.
Yes.
But of course, the last match of the night, the singles match for the undisputed WWE Championship, a match revisited 14 years later.
Yes.
John Cena, CM Punk.
Yes.
Peeps, as much as we would enjoy a triumphant CM Punk moment in a blood money covered country, I think we both know that John Cena is coming out the winner.
Yes. The question is, how? What happens? How does this happen? Are there shenanigans involved? Who would be the one that would actually interfere and cost Punk the match? Would Punk make a mistake that would cost himself the match? Or do they just do the unthinkable and put the belt on CM Punk?
You know what? Here's what I was thinking. Seth comes in to try to cash in. Punk goes ahead and stops him from doing that. Cena ends up somehow going ahead and getting this man into an AA or an STF. I would say most likely the best case scenario is the referee goes down. Seth tries to come in. All of this happens. Low blow, attitude adjustment, 1, 2, 3. Cena wins. LOL. That's the best case scenario, I guess.
Yeah.
Once more, we know that these Cena matches with him being a heel has been filled with shenanigans, and that's just been the case from Elimination Chamber. Pretty much, if we go ahead and kind of like point all the way back to that. So the case in point is that there is going to be shenanigans. I don't think Cena wins clean. To further the point of him being a heel, he doesn't win clean. There's no way he wins clean. That's just me. Well, peeps, with that being said, I guess we're locking those predictions in.
Yes.
And we're waiting to see what happens within an hour from now. But,
yes,
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this marks the end to our predictions. And, of course, this marks the end to today's episode of Saturday afternoon's main event. Today was a great show. We enjoyed it with you guys. This was indeed phenomenal. But
there you go.
With that being said, guys, we will see you next week to go ahead and talk about our reviews. We will go ahead and enjoy Night of Champions. We hope you guys do as well. And enjoy the wrestling week as a whole. But this is Saturday afternoon's main event, where I, the phenomenal one,
and I, the Peeps Nate, and for Mr. 411 Christopher Morton, who wasn't in, he'll be in next week, hopefully.
Next week, indeed. Hopefully.
Yes. We came.
We saw.
And in the words of the Oracle, Paul Heyman,
send them home, peeps.
We conquered.
There we go. We conquered, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
See you next week. Enjoy Night of Champions. This was Same. I'm the phenomenal one. Alongside me is the Peeps Nate. Peace, love, farewell.
Extreme.